Welcome back investors to another portfolio update. So this one will be for the first week of May. As you can see, the portfolio has gone back over 100k now, but that was mainly because I made a purchase and I wasn't intending to. But then earlier on in the week there was some news which affected Google. So essentially the news was Apple plans to offer AI search options on Safari, which was a blow to Google dominance. So much so Apple was saying Google searches were down on Safari for the first time in 22 years. As it says in this article, Google's stock price dropped 8% after that news. So Google issued this statement later that night, which says, "We continue to see overall query growth in search." So essentially what could be happening is that people are searching less via Safari but still using Google Chrome for their searches. Now Google pays Apple $20 billion a year for it to be essentially its favored search engine on its phones. And that will continue because here it mentioned during a antitrust trial that Google pays $20 billion to Apple for using its search engine. And that will continue because, as Q said, Apple won't replace Google as its default option. So I don't think there's too much worries about that. On the back of that, the share price dropped quite dramatically. I think as far as 10%. So for me, this represented a buying opportunity. So I ended up buying £1,000 worth. And here you will see the purchases that I made. So I made 3 purchases totaling about 1,000, which bought just under 9 shares, which again I'm really happy about. So that overall meant that my portfolio went over 100,000, but it was due to that purchase. So the summary for the week was slightly down, so just 0.4% overall, with just under £84,500 in net deposits. So not too much overall happened within the week, but one thing that was really good for my portfolio was Bitcoin. So Bitcoin now sits at just over £104,500, and that has led to MicroStrategy popping last week, so just under 5% rise, which takes my holding in MicroStrategy at a firm green now, so up over 12% for a £1,134 gain so far. The other piece of news that affected my portfolio a little bit was Centrica. So Centrica provided a trading update, and one of the things that it said was its energy storage plus business is expected to post an adjusted operating loss at the higher end of the previously guided range of £50 million to £100 million. So the shares dropped. So let's have a quick look. So yeah, the shares dropped from about just under £1.60 a share to about £1.47. It's not a position I'm adding to it. I mainly own this for its dividend that it pays, but I'm still up just under 35% on this position, and it's a good strong dividend payer. But despite this, Centrica still reiterated its full year adjusted operating profit guidance, and it raised its dividends to 5.5p a share from 5p. Also, it is increasing its share buyback program, which will complete by the end of this year, so this should have a good impact on the share price too. Overall, on the macro side, if you look at the S&P 500, it was pretty much flat, up 0.08% for the week. That's mainly because the Fed didn't announce a rate cut, even though Trump is putting a lot of pressure on them to do so, and they are utilizing a wait and see kind of stance, which I kind of like. So if the rates were cut last week, it would have meant that the stock market went up a lot, but I think for me as an investor, I want long-term stability. So maybe what's good near term is not necessarily good long term. So I would like a more consistent easing, as it were, so long term that we can gain, because that I am a long-term investor. In terms of the FTSE, very similar, so up a little bit more than the S&P. That was mainly due to a rate cut which was implemented this week. So the Bank of England reduced the rates to 4.25% from 4.5%, which I think the market kind of had priced in because the market didn't move too much on the back of that. Now, outside of my portfolio, I wanted to look at a company called HIMS. Now, HIMS is a online telehealth platform, so it generally sells healthcare, well-being supplements to consumers. It reported revenues of 586 million, up 111% year over year, beating analyst estimates of 538. Earnings per share was 20 cents, analyst expectations were 12 cents, and it provided net income of $50 million, which is quite important because if you look at HIMS's revenue in the past, this is the first year that it's actually making a profit. Overall, the stock has gone up over 320% in the last year or so, and more recently, if you look at 3 months, it's up 20%, and last week, on the back of the strong earnings, the stock is up 27%. One of the reasons that it has gone up so much, it announced a partnership with a European pharma company called Novo Nordisk to supply its weight loss drug called Wegovy, which is very popular. Now, if it can do partnerships similar to that, this company will go from strength to strength. So what I found interesting about this company also is that it had no debt up until this announcement, where it's due to raise up to $1 billion to fund acquisitions and also to increase its AI offering. Now, if this is executed well, then this company is going to continue to do very well in terms of growth. So it's interesting. I'm not sure whether I will invest in it, but it's a company that I'm on the lookout for to see how it does. Another interesting thing that I found out was that HIMS spends about 50% of its current revenues on advertising. So eventually, once it gains a big foothold on the market, that can be reduced. So the margins can very easily be increased on that front. Now, going back to my own portfolio, on the dividend front, I received one last week, which was MasterCard for £9.53, and that was reinvested back into MasterCard, which can be seen here. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all the subscribers so far. So the last video was quite good for a channel of my size. So if you've enjoyed the content so far, please, if you can, subscribe, give it a quick like, so that means other people can see this video and then gain value too. So a quick summary on my overall positions. So Google, I'm still down just over 10%, but as you saw earlier, I bought another big tranche of shares and I now own 105 shares within my ISA. MicroStrategy, I'm up over 5 figures now with the increase in Bitcoin price. Visa up almost 15%. Imperial Brands up over 70% on that. MasterCard 10%. Meta, my recent acquisition, if you watched the video last time, I'm up on that position already. Microsoft up just under 13%. Tesla up 38%. AbbVie up 21%. Carnival up 45%, or almost 45%. Amazon up 2%. Elgen, I'm down 2%, my first, other than Google, my first company where I'm down on. Nvidia up almost 40%. Rio Tinto down 15%. This and BHP, my other miner, are pretty much always down, but I own it mainly for the dividend that it pays me. Centrica at 35%, it was up over 40% before the trading update. Apple pretty much flat, up 1.5%. Costco up 27%. Broadcom up 50%, and KLA and SML, I'm both down at 12% and 21% respectively. So that was a quick update on the portfolio overall. Back up over 100,000, and hopefully with the tariff announcements and the negotiations that the US is having, we start seeing a lot more green. Thank you very much for watching the video. I got a lot of new subscribers at the end of the last video, which I was really happy about, so thank you very much for that. So please like the video so other people can see it, and if you're not a subscriber, then hopefully you subscribe as well. I'll see you on the next video.